There are so many disc golf companies, brands, and manufacturers. We all know and love the popular discs, and they're popular for a reason, lots of them having the same characteristics that make them so great. But over the years of disc golf manufacturing, there have been some not so great characteristics. Some companies have innovated and succeeded making discs we see week in and week out. Some companies have come up with just the craziest designs and technology. That's what we're taking a look at today, the weirdest discs of all time. Some of these have just the weirdest designs, some really strange technology, and one of these has just the funniest story behind the creation of the disc. Now, to be on this list and to be considered a part of the disc golf community, a disc must have been PDGA approved at some point. Lots of these are still PDGA approved, but one of these that you'll see later on was quickly removed after further investigation. A couple of these discs are from very popular companies. You guys may have even thrown a few of these, but there are some on this list you guys may have never even heard of. Starting with weird and finishing with the weirdest, here we go to our first disc. Let's see if you have ever heard of it before. We're going to ease into the weirdness today, but that doesn't mean the M5 from Prodigy isn't one strange disc. The understable mid-range M5 is very tall compared to other mid-ranges in the Prodigy lineup, but what's really weird about the M5 is that it has two rims to it. It almost looks like a disc within a disc. A beaded disc is a disc that has a ridge on the bottom of the disc. The M5 almost has an inverted bead, making it look like this. This is a very unique and strange design for a popular disc golf brand like Prodigy. Not the weirdest on our list today, but certainly worth mentioning. Out of all the discs we're going to look at today, this is the one that you may see out on tour. Can't imagine any of the other ones having a chance of being played. If you have ever wanted a disc with different textures, I guess this is your disc. The Latitude 64 Sinus is an overstable putter that has different textures on top of the disc to help you with your grip. It's either Sinus or Sinus. I think Sinus sounds better. These three patches at the top vary in their textures, so if you don't like the feel of one, you can try out the other two. Regardless of the addition, the disc is a really great disc. It's an overstable putter, so you can use it for a lot of things. But the crew at Lat64 decided that it would be an interesting idea if they added in these three patches on top of the disc for comfort. An interesting but very strange concept for a putter. What's funny is that they put the textures in three different spots with spacing. So let's say you don't even want to use any of the different textures, you have enough space to just put your thumb where the normal plastic is, kind of like all the other putters out there. This is probably the most famous disc on our list. If you haven't seen one or thrown one, you're missing out. The Innova Groove, as its name states, has a groove underneath it. That makes for a pretty interesting disc. I was living in Florida for a bit and found a groove at a course in the water, then a few days later, I found another groove in the water. Apparently someone either really likes grooves or they really liked throwing them in the water. In my own personal opinion, they are really weird looking. Feel wise, it's not bad at all. On the forehands you feel the groove, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. The disc just has the most infamous reputation a disc golf disc can probably have. Again, this has to be one of the weirdest designs for a disc I've ever seen. The design of the disc was to be able to make it so that they could mold it into lighter weights as a distance driver for beginners. Understandable, just a really weird looking disc. Remember the M5? Two rims, sort of? Well, let's take that and stretch it out a bit to a distance driver and you'll have the Kastaplast Rask. The Rask was designed with an inner rim to reduce drag. That's the technology behind it. But according to Kastaplast themselves, the disc is useful for hyzer bombs and getting out of trouble. The weird thing about this disc is just the look of it. You're not going to be able to feel any bit of that inner rim, it's just useful for the technology of it. This may be one of the fastest discs on the market, but if you can't throw super freaking hard, you're not getting this disc to go anywhere. Similar to the Groove in the fact that this is just one of the stranger discs just for the fact of the technology. The only player I've seen throw them is Luke Sampson and he crushes it, so unless you're a real bomber, this disc is only going to be a utility disc. Or as Kastaplast says, for getting out of trouble. This is just the actual mold of the disc. The next few discs we're going to take a look at have a whole other level of weird disc golf technology I bet you guys haven't seen. Now we get into a whole different category of weird. It's hard to rank these last few discs because all of them have very unique sets of characteristics about them and they are just all over the place. Let's start with the Ozone discs. Here's the concept in a nutshell. Ozone would make the molds for the disc with the technological advantage. After the mold was made, a ring could be inserted that would affect the flight of the disc. Different rings did different things. So you could have a bunch of discs that are the same mold, take the Andro 1 and make it overstable, stable, and understable. So instead of having different molds for different shots, you could use the Andro 1 for any shot you prefer. Ozone Discs ran a Kickstarter to get their discs up and running. In 2015, the Andro 1 was PDGA approved. A year later, the Andro C came out and was approved as well. The Andro 1 was just the prototype, so I'm taking them as the same disc. Ozone Discs did have one more disc that is PDGA approved, the Hyperion, but that disc does not have the insertable ring technology like the Andro C. And that's all there is for the Andro C. Nothing else happened. The company didn't really do anything after that. No more discs were released or anything like that. Interesting technology, but a really weird concept. Any coffee drinkers out there ever heard of the AeroPress? Well, from the creators of the AeroPress, I bring you the Aerobie Epic. Now, the weirder we get with the disc seems to be the weirder we get with the technology. Here's the Epic's technology. Number 1, the flight plate design of the disc is off-center, meaning the weight of the disc is off-center. So if you're gripping it on one side of the disc, the rim may be bigger or smaller than the opposite side of the rim. Really weird, really funky design on the Epic. But that's not it. The Epic is known as a tunable disc. Want an overstable Epic? Bend it to become overstable and it will hold its mold. Bend it back to become understable and it will do that too. One of the strangest PDGA approvals on this list, but it was approved back in 2003. With the combination of the off-center flight plate and the ability to bend the disc and hold the mold, this may be one of the weirdest discs ever made. What's funny is even on the box they explain you how you should tune the disc. Literally can make this disc whatever you want it to be. But with that being said, the durability of these discs are nothing. Easily damaged, they don't last too long, really weird concept, and I can't believe it was PDGA approved. Sit back and relax as I tell you guys a story, because for this disc there's a lot of background that needs to be addressed. College disc golf has had many great disc golf teams, one of them being Ferris State. 3 national championships in 5 years, that's pretty sweet. Well, back in 2011, Ferris State had an interesting idea. They wanted to break a world record to raise funds and awareness for breast cancer research. The world record, as many discs in the air at one time. The current record was 1,903. Their goal was to get 2,500 discs in the air. In order to be recognized as a world record, the discs needed to be on the PDGA approval list. That's why you can find the disc on their website being approved all the way back in 2011. Here's where it gets interesting. It was all in-house. Ferris State had their own plastic engineering program, so they made the discs. The college's slogan, Imagine More, so they named the disc they created, the Imagine. The discs were handed out before the football game at the college, and before the game started, the attempt was made. Sadly, they fell short with only 1,500 people throwing discs in the air. Certainly one of the coolest stories about a one-off disc, but man, it's a really weird disc. Looks like a frisbee, has this huge top on it. Really cool story, kinda sucks they fell short, but they did get to make a disc on the PDGA approval list longer than this next disc. Alright, all the other discs are weird and could have gone in any order, but this one is by far the best disc on the list. Quest AT was a disc golf manufacturer that started in 2006. They have quite a few discs underneath their belt, such as the 10-meter brick, which is literally a lid that goes nowhere, but they're infamous for another disc design, the Turbo Putt. That's the disc name, the Turbo Putt. First off, turbo putting is a style where you throw the disc overhand like a baseball. This disc, the Turbo Putt, was designed for that. Let's look at the disc first. The underside of the disc has a spiral track to help players who want a turbo putt. That's pretty simple. It also has ridges on the rim of the disc that make it so you can put your fingers in between the disc. By far the weirdest disc we have ever seen in disc golf to be PDGA approved. It was approved in 2007, but a year later was taken off the list because the disc was found to not have radial symmetry. Quest AT quickly left the disc golf market after that, and the Turbo Putt was no more. With the disc being by far the weirdest disc I've ever seen, and the fact that it was PDGA approved for a short while makes it number 1 on my list. What an interesting story alongside such a weird disc. Let me know in the comments if you guys have thrown any of the discs I've showed you. Tell me what you think about them. Also comment any weird discs that I didn't mention. Interested to see if there are some really obscure designs out there that I missed. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to check out my channel. I have some other videos just like this one. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers.